And welcome to another episode of Guy Next Door Speaks. I'm your host, Ivan from Phoenix, and this is episode number 8 of the Videocast series now. And today I have a special guest. Name is Todd Borho, not to be confused with the donkey burro, but Borho. It has an H in there and it's silent, so he tells me. All right, and Todd is on the show today because, as it happens with the great work, people that are actually doing great work tend to look for more information, and other people that are, putting content out there. And Todd found my work through Passio, listened to me through Passio, and went to my website, or now through the One Great Work Network is out there. And so he reached out to me, and I looked up his stuff, and he's what's called, he calls himself a, conscious creator.
Creator, right?
Yeah, so that's great, and we should all be that, or actually we should all be that. Not all of us are that, because we'll get into that, what conscious creator actually is. Right. So anyway, so today is Friday, February 26th, 2021, just to put that date stamp on there, so that way people know what has happened in the world, where we stand. So if we talk of certain things, be like, this is that time period. So with all the masks and BS,
it's always good to clarify what time frame you're speaking from. Absolutely.
Yep, exactly. So Todd, so go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself. Conscious creator, and what the hell am I doing talking to you, man?
So first of all, thank you for taking the time and attention to speak with me today. I'm really excited to be here and talk to you about anarchist fiction, and fiction in general, and how it affects the thoughts, emotions, actions, beliefs, and habits of people in general, some more than others, depending on how much content they take in. And about myself, personally, I've been doing the great work, or doing the best that I can in it, for about 5 years now. And the majority of my work has been writing. And the vast majority of my writing is fictional narratives. I've also dabbled in a little music, and also a little bit of animation with what limited resources I have. But, I had fun with it, and I am doing the best I can to help bring freedom into the world and to end slavery. So
that's it. That's what it's all about.
About what I've been doing. And I'm excited to talk to you, because I think you're one of the few people that I've come across out there that congratulations on being on the One Great Work Network, by the way. I wanted to put that in there, because that's fantastic. When I saw that launched, I was really excited about that. And getting to your work, I was mainly looking at your Marvel Universe film observations. And I think it's kind of rare. Like, there's not a lot of people out there getting into details like you are, from a true freedom, a truth perspective, and occulted messages that are in films, in Hollywood mainstream narratives.
Right. And as we spoke earlier, a couple of days ago, I didn't even go all in detail. I just try to keep it simple, because remember, it's like teaching, preaching to the choir. If we get into all the occulted information to the other initiates. So the key is to get the uninitiated on board, to open their eyes to what they're exposed to every day through music, movies, TV show, and everything they see. So if we go real deep into occulted stuff that's over their heads, it's like really not doing anything. So that's why it was very simple. And in one of them, I did drop the name of Cullen Smith. It's someone through Facebook and YouTube that he really delves very much into the occulted stuff that blows my mind. So there's people that a couple of people doing detailed work. Yeah,
because I have not heard of his work before, and I am very much.
I'll send you some links. I'll send you links to his stuff. But
fantastic.
But so thinking about, since we last spoke, I was thinking about how we could kind of our similarities, and the work you're putting out made me realize my conference the name for that conference on the website, Truth, Mind, Reality.
Mind,
How
reality.
that
Yep.
works with what you just said in your, opening there, how people are programmed or the triggering and through what they see and hear and experience that. So yeah, what they take in, that's the fiction, and then their mind, and then
Right.
reality, how they behave. So we're kind of on the same page there, coming at it from different
Different angles.
angles, right?
Right. And I think it's equally important, what you've been doing to point out the occulted messages, the lies that are in these big Hollywood productions, like the Avengers, like big Marvel movies, for example. But then also on top of that, what I've done is create narratives that are much different from a typical Hollywood script or a New York Times bestseller, uh, a mainstream fictional narrative, where I kind of flip it over from what you would see in a typical mainstream corporate dark occult production. I do the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can take a moment to explain what I mean by that.
Yeah, go ahead. Because I wanted to drop a word like intention. A lot of
Right.
people don't really touch on intention, but yet that is so massive and everything, because everything in existence is pretty much neutral. It's the intention. Either something's used for positive or negative, to enslave or to liberate. So, and obfuscation is very big in Hollywood with that, to hide,
Absolutely.
think that
Yeah.
things are real, and
Obfuscation, that's
it
key.
touches
Right.
on truth, but bam, it gets flipped. And you're doing the
Right.
opposite. Like, okay, here's these little things,
Right.
but boom, for the truth, to liberate.
Yeah, because Ivan, people take in so much fictional content, a lot of people on a daily basis, and through repetition, the lies that they see in these productions, even though they are fictional, uh, they become part of their environment, and they take them for granted as
Mm-hmm.
if they are, you know, true and just a normal part of their everyday existence and of society. So some details that I'd like to mention are, number one, a common theme that you see in Hollywood narratives is that the extortion funded gang that is euphemistically known as government, they are generally the heroes.
Mm-hmm.
They are defending freedom. They provide security. They're fighting the good fight, which is the complete opposite of the truth.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is that government is slavery. Of course, you and I, and probably a lot of people listening to this, know that. So in my narratives, what I've done is try to flip that around, where I make anarchists, voluntarists. They are the heroes. They are the good guys in my stories. And the state actors, those extortion funded order followers like police, military, so on and so forth, bureaucrats,
Mm-hmm.
they are the villains in my stories.
Yep.
So it paints a much more accurate picture of reality, even though it is a fictional narrative. But this is how seeds of liberty and truth are planted in people's minds. Or conversely, the lies that are planted in their minds by the mainstream corporate dark occult narratives from mainstream media.
Yeah, your work is more literal. You remove the obfuscation,
Right. It's how I try to envision how the world could look if there were a higher degree of freedom and we lived uh, in accordance with natural law
Mm-hmm.
and objective morality, basically, where people taking right action, they are the good guys and having a positive effect on the others around them, on their environment, for themselves, finding more freedom. And as a necessary requirement to do that, they are fending off the state in one way or another. And we can go as much into detail on that as you'd like. I
Right.
don't know.
Well, since you've obviously familiar with Passio's work, with the One
Right.
Great
Yeah,
Work Network,
absolutely.
and having
I've
found
learned a
me
lot
through.
from Mark Passio for sure. Yeah.
Right. So right there with what you were talking about for the uninitiated, once again, you know, doing right, and good, those are the same thing, because one's rights is right action is doing what's
Right.
good, being the good guy. Whereas,
Right.
wrong action, that's the bad guy. That's what, you don't have a right to do that. That's why it's wrong. So yeah.
Right. Correct.
So yeah, there's so many films and allegories that cover all this stuff. We have stormtroopers in Star Wars. We have,
Right.
the Agent Smiths and the Matrixes. We
Right.
have in the Lord of the Rings, all those not Gollum, but those what were they called? The ones that were created by Saruman. I mean,
I've
all over the
actually
place.
Lord of the Rings is one of those few movies that I have not watched and analyzed on that perspective.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, all the Star, and I know Lord of the Rings.
It's a
I've
huge one.
heard, right, it's a big one.
Mhm.
It's just not, I don't know, a story that I can really. It doesn't really pique my interest from an entertainment perspective. But things like Star Wars and what you've done with the Marvel universe, they're entertaining. But whenever I watch a film, now that I'm quote unquote awake and have been for quite a few years now, I'm always looking for that angle. Like, what messages are they trying to put in people's heads with these narratives and these characters and their actions?
Right. And now that takes us back to what I was talking about, intention. So many
Right.
people watch films for entertainment, which in itself is a neutral thing, that goes in to hold the mind. Go in and hold the mind. So
Right. Entertainment,
we're
a word,
attempt
definitely has meaning that most people don't know. Right. To
right,
hold the mind.
and we're attempting here to provide some form of entertainment to go in and hold the person's mind. However, the intention is different. It's for, my website, Free Your Mind AZ. The intention is to free people's minds, to allow them, provide them tools to free their minds. Hence, that's
Right.
why we're going in and holding their mind for, an hour or two, and the same thing with your work, whereas
Yeah.
others hold minds to reprogram them, control them, and obfuscate them
Right.
and confuse them, and all that stuff. So intention, again, entertainment by itself, a neutral thing. It's the intention, what's happening. Again, now we get back to right and wrong, good and bad. So it's always the
Right.
same trinity there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. And, you know, don't the people listening out there, don't think for 1 minute that any Hollywood movie does not have its share of social engineers and psychologists and writers that probably went to an Ivy League school or have some type of tie to some government agency on some level. And even that's been, I think I heard you talk about this in one of your podcasts. That's been admitted to on some level where, the Pentagon,
Mm,
that enormous death cult known as the Pentagon,
mhm.
they have openly admitted to influencing Hollywood movies and funding it and controlling some of the narrative.
Right off the bat, you have me thinking of, for example, one director, Michael Bay, with his Transformer movies,
Yeah,
because
Michael Bay.
all the
Yeah,
big, military helicopters and tanks and
right,
technology, and during the credits, all you need to do, people, that's why I don't understand why people, as soon as the first credits start rolling, people get up and leave. Those are the people that don't want to know. I usually sit
right,
through the credits because you can read, okay, this person, production design, this makeup, that. But then when you
right,
get towards the end, you start seeing, special thanks to the Department of Defense
right.
and,
Yeah,
military, Marine Admiral, this, and it's like, yeah, okay,
special
that's what you
thanks
can tell.
to
Yeah, thanks to our
Alphabet Soup Agency
exactly.
ABC. Right. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not a secret. It's just people don't look at it.
Hmm. And I
Yep.
got a theory that there's some other, it gets even deeper. And in fact, there was a movie recently that I watched. Which one was it? I'll have to think about this. But there's agencies. We know that there are some studios that are probably fronts or subsidized by certain alphabet agencies, and some of the people that regularly work together, same directors, same actors, yeah, they're little puppets of, you know, these agencies to put the propaganda out there, and they're well-known
Absolutely.
names, you know, they're well-known
Absolutely.
names. So, but
I mean, to give another example of that, just the guy that wrote the James Bond
Ian Fleming,
novel,
yes.
Ian Fleming, it, it's an open secret that he was in the military and intelligence circles. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's not a big secret. These things happen, and there's reasons for it. It's to affect people's thoughts, emotions, and actions,
Mm-hmm.
and making them believe in the most dangerous superstition
Mm-hmm.
called authority,
Yep.
human authority, which, as we know, does not exist in nature or in reality.
Mm-hmm. Right. And you talking about military influences. I don't know if you're familiar with Dave McGowan's work. He's someone, he passed away
Uh,
several years ago, but he had done a book, scenes from the oh, now I forgot the name of that, the Laurel
I've
Canyon.
heard of it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, yeah.
about like in the
He did the Laurel
60s.
Canyon stuff, right?
Right,
Yeah,
showing how the Doors and all these other groups came out of nowhere, and pretty much all of them had some relationship with
yeah.
military
Music's another big one,
intelligence. It's like,
of
yeah,
course.
yep,
Right.
yeah. So it's everywhere if you pay
Yeah,
attention, if you bother to
it, it
look.
it's pop culture in general.
Yep.
It's music, movies, novels, magazines, any popular culture that people are looking at on a regular basis with their time and attention
Yep.
is part of that.
All right. So we kind of laid a foundation as to what more or less we're talking about. So let's get
Right.
into what you're putting out there, your work. I know
Okay.
you have yeah, like you said, you put out a few things. So, and this is on your website, toddborho.com, and the Borho is spelled BORHO.com. So
Right.
what's on
That's
that site?
toddborho.com,
Mm-hmm.
TODDBORHO.com. And it's a very basic website, but it's simplified where you can find all of my different media channels through there. So that's the best place to go. And all of my content is pretty much free. I mean, if there's an option there to buy a paperback book of my most recent novel from there, if you'd like and want to support an independent anarchist author, but all of my content is free digitally.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, my most recent publication that I've done, a long form publication. And I want to add to this that I've also done a lot of shorter work. I've done, I don't know, probably a dozen different TV scripts, written very dialogue heavy, very short, easy to read, 5 to 10 minute reads. I've done, yeah, quite a few of those over the years. But my most recent work is a trilogy. It's really 3 books in one. And it's a trilogy that ties together just like any other trilogy, like the original Star Wars trilogy tied together.
Mm-hmm.
And do I have a moment to kind of get in on the details of that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Great. Okay, so the first part of the trilogy is called James Bong, Bong with a G. When I first started writing it, I did not have the idea or intention of writing a trilogy. I just thought it would be fun to write a spoof of the James Bond franchise. So what I did was I made this character James Bong and kind of flipped it flipped the Hollywood script, so to speak, where James Bong is an anarchist. However, he has the background of he was trained by MI6 and he woke up later and found out the truth and became a voluntarist and took action against the state.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it's kind of dark comedy, a little bit of action thriller, a lot of technology, that I employ in it. It's a fun, fast read. It's written in TV script format, so it's very dialogue heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I try to use some sharp wit and keep a fast pace. It takes place in the near future, so we're speaking right now in 2021, and it takes place in the year 2028.
Okay.
So basically what James Bong and his friends and associates do is they try to help wake people up to truth and to objective morality, but they don't do it uh, just with words or with narratives. They go out and take action. For example, they help thwart attacks from the IRS. They help save, grandma and grandpa's farm
Mm-hmm.
from getting stolen by the thugs at the IRS. They stop a raid on a cannabis dispensary, things like that. And not only do they do these things, but they film them, and they partially fund what they're doing by putting the videos of their actions online and getting funded through voluntary means, through social media, any type of video platform like Library or Steemit, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So towards the end of the James Bong series, there is the beginning of what would become the second part of the trilogy, which is called Ciagora. So James Bong ends basically, and the Ciagora, which is a voluntarist society on the open ocean, on and under the ocean. So jump 50 years into the future. 2078, I think, is the year that this takes place. And Ciagora basically is a voluntarist, quote unquote, society, people just living freely on the ocean and under the ocean. And at this point in the trilogy, they're still being attacked by the state. They have a much larger degree of freedom living on the ocean, but they're still having to smuggle some resources from on land. They're still evading the state. There's a lot of fun hypothetical technologies like quantum encryption and transformable 3D printed hemp powered boats that are both submersible and can go on the surface, and they can transform into airplanes and jets, all sorts of cool stuff.
All right.
And basically, the second part of the trilogy, Ciagora, ends with, I don't want to give away too much, but it sets the stage.
Keep it spoiler free.
Right. It sets the stage for the third part of the trilogy, which takes a big jump into the future. Another 500 years.
Wow.
This is called Agora 1.
Okay.
So in Agora 1, it's 500 years in the future, and the people that did wake up, the people that found objective morality and what true freedom is, a lot of them left Earth and left the people that were still, enslaving themselves basically with government. They left that behind. And so now there are anarchists, not just from Earth, but from other planets, living across multiple galaxies and having ridiculously high technology. And it's a fun read. Just to show, I wanted to show that humanity really could reach the stars, and just how much we are held back by our self-imposed slavery. And I wanted to show what a possible future could be like. Not what it should be like, but could, just one possibility of a better future. And an
planting those
future.
seeds.
Right, exactly.
Yep. Wow. Yeah. You see, fantasy, imagination, creativity, everything that's restricted with the cookie cutter education system, indoctrination, and government, and money, and everything just stay the same, stay the same, stay the same. But yeah,
Right.
but hey, that's what fantasy is for, and science fiction and all this kind of stuff. And now anarchy fiction,
Right. Well, I mean, people have a hard time imagining, myself included. It really is. We have such a police state here, and we're so restricted here, especially now after the pandemic and all of the
Mm-hmm.
uh, government lockdowns. It's really hard to imagine having that high of degree of freedom, and what really would it look like? How would our daily lives be different? How would my personal life be different? If if I weren't under duress constantly, you know,
Exactly. Right.
uh, because we really are constantly under duress. The extortion and the implicit coercion is constantly there, kind of hovering in the background. We don't think about it constantly, but it is there.
Yeah.
So it really boggles the mind to wonder what really would it be like. And I can't imagine how fantastic it would be, because the human uh, we have infinite possibilities of,
Mm-hmm.
of what we could do and where we could go. So anyway, I try to stay optimistic, cautiously optimistic about the future, and hopeful.
Yeah, yeah. Quite a few different thoughts. It make me think of a few different things. This is what usually happens with these podcasts. This is why I told you I don't have any notes or anything planned out, because
Right.
once we start
Yeah.
talking, boom, things just come up, because there's nothing new under the sun. They're
Right.
ideas, concepts, and experiences that have always been there, but all they need is the proper trigger to boom, this connects to this connects to that. So what you
Right.
were
One thing
talking about,
leads to another.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, it just made me think of Star Trek with what you were talking about to some degree, but
Yeah.
they obfuscated still United Federation. It's still some kind of
Right.
governmental thing. They got to poison the
Yeah.
well somehow. And then
Right.
with what you were just saying now made me keep thinking about truth, mind, reality, because the way we live now, that's being imposed on us as this is the truth. There's no other way. This is how it is. This is how it is. So we keep accepting that as truth and processing that or regurgitating that same BS, historical, limitation stuff. And that's the reality we get. And then now
It
you
leads
start
to a negative reality, a negative
exactly
experience. Right.
right. So then you
Yep.
get what you're putting out, or free thinkers put out,
Right.
and that receives so much resistance because that's not the norm. That's not. Here's another breakdown of a word, etymology wise. Just the establishment. Establish is what?
Hmm.
Set. And we know meant mind,
Set the mind.
mindset. So establishment is the
Right.
mindset that sets the mind. So like we were talking, the truth is whatever they say it is. Oh no, we can't go to the stars, or only special elites, military, or the rich can do. Oh no, we can't have unlimited,
Right.
free energy and
Yeah, the
travel.
military
No,
can,
yeah, they
and
can do that.
Elon Musk can,
Right.
but yeah,
Space program, yeah.
the average guy sitting around on his couch, he can't go to the
Right. No,
stars.
no, no,
No.
no. No, that breaks the mindset. That breaks the establishment. And what's the
Right.
purpose of anarchy and all this? To break the establishment, to reset the
Correct.
establishment. Like it's unlimited. There is no set,
Right.
you know?
Right. And that's one thing that I think is important about fictional stories, is that people take that information in and process it differently
Hmm.
than they do if they're, for example, watching the quote unquote news, uh, which
Isn't it
there's a lot of
funny?
lies there anyway,
Yeah.
but it's just a different way that their brain processes information. And when they're watching a movie or reading a novel, they're not trying to analyze it, and they're not really, they don't have their guard up. You know what I mean? They're not going to get, like, Ivan, when was the last time uh, you knew anyone who got offended or angry about an Avengers movie, or a spy thriller that they read?
Right.
People don't get angry about the fiction that they consume. It's
Nope.
they're just trying to, have a good time and enjoy the story. And
That living
since their guard is
vicariously.
down,
It's that living
right, exactly,
vicariously
yeah,
that
absolutely,
brings up the
absolutely,
whole problem, we have with like the Matrix, Star Wars,
right,
Hunger Games, all these movies
right,
about the few, the poor struggling, standing up and defeating the empire, the establishment, the ruling thing,
right,
and people cheer it, and they go and spend 2, 3, $500 million on these movies, $1 billion, and yay. But then when you talk about, hey, real life, let's go ahead, maybe we should do, no, no, no. It's like, what changes? Well, that the entertainment is an
right,
escape, so they can live vicariously through that. But when it comes to real life responsibility and now shaking up, oh, wait a minute, no, we can't go there. It's like, what is that? That's a big time psychological mind control.
there's a disconnect. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's caused by mind control, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is emotional mind control. It's fear based
Yes.
mind control. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's, something about some parts of the stories that I've written, not just in the trilogy, but just in general, there, a lot of it is plausible. Like, I don't think the average person would read something that I wrote, or at least a lot of what I've written, and say, oh no, that's impossible.
Mm.
There's just no way. A lot of it is believable. Like, you can stand up to the TSA. It doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
I've done it before. It doesn't take much. You just have to have the courage, and it's very simple. Very simple actions that I try to present in a lot of my writings, where it at least will seem plausible to someone who reads it.
And there you just said the word I wanted to throw out. I kept thinking about Thanos, having the will, and
Right,
that's basically it. The will. What will you do?
right,
Well, we'll sit
right,
down and pay $10 to go sit up at a movie theater. They have the willpower for that, but do you have the willpower now to put your life on the line and take action and risk? And oh no, not that kind of will. No, no, no.
right.
So, yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, and there's so much that I could say to that. But,
Well, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm not perfect. I get afraid as well,
Right.
but there have been instances where I've said no to order followers, and
Mm-hmm.
I've stood up for myself against them, and I felt great after I did it. And nothing bad happened to me. I got through it, and it was okay. And if more people would do that, we would quickly see a big change, where with a much higher degree of freedom, and where eventually slavery would cease to exist, which is the
Mm-hmm.
goal, right?
Right.
We all want to be free. People think they're free, but they're not.
Yeah.
So I mean, people say, oh, I'm free. Oh, really? Okay, why don't you stop paying your taxes?
Mm-hmm.
Stop the extortion. Can you do that? Oh no, I can't do that. Well, then you're not free now, are you?
Yeah.
That's that simple disconnect that people have, that really, even to this day, after knowing natural law for about 5 years, it still amazes me just how wide that gulf is between reality of what's in people's minds and what is actually happening.
Yeah, it's that trinity again: thoughts, emotions, and actions. They can have the right
Right,
thoughts, they can feel the right emotions, but the biggest thing, that action's always
right.
lagging. Yep, that's what's missing.
Yeah,
And that's what some of this is, what we're doing, a little bit of that action, because it could be like, well, somebody will put out video, you could spend all day going through YouTube or online looking, well, somebody's got to put something out there that where is it somebody, well, if you know it, you say it.
right.
And that's, again, attributing Passio. Before Passio, for a good 4 or 5 years, I was all up on David Icke. I was all up on Michael
Right.
Tessarian. I was all up with Jan Irving's work, and
Yeah.
Max Egan, and but nobody had really said, okay, this go out there and do something with it. What are you
Go
going to
out
do
there
with
and
it?
do something. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and now this ties in with a movie again. Sean Connery in The Untouchables. He kept telling Kevin Costner, "Now, what are you prepared to do?" And that's the thing. You got all this information.
Right.
You know what's going on. Everybody knows where the booze is. It's just a matter of who has the balls to kick the door down and do something about it. Now, what are you prepared to
That's
do?
a
See?
great analogy. Very, very
Yeah,
well said.
yeah. See, so again, even in movies, they took it. But who were they? They were the government. He was an FBI agent. The other guy was a city cop. Oh, see, so the good guys obviously do the good things, and their government's like, oh shit. That's why they were able to poison that. There's truth in what he said, but again, it's the government people. So,
I'm glad you brought that up, taking action, because I'd like to mention that what I'm saying here, I'm not trying to, preach or be on a high horse or anything. I try to improve every day. There's a lot of room for improvement in my actions and finding more freedom for myself personally. And what I mean by that is just some examples. Okay, do I still get extorted when I buy something? In the majority of cases, yes, I do, because I go to the grocery store and extortion is built into the system.
Yes.
Where people don't even notice it or think about it. I notice it, I think about it, because I know how wrong it is. But so, okay, can I buy, more stuff at farmers markets? Can I go more quote unquote black market? Can I be extorted less sales tax, less income tax? Can I stop using the what I call violence-backed Federal Reserve note, better known as the US dollar? No, I have not. I am trying to use cryptocurrency more. I'm still very much a novice at that, but I'm consciously trying to get better, to do things that will create more freedom for myself. And if we do that individually, Ivan, and people see that, wow, this guy has a great lifestyle, he doesn't pay any taxes, and it seems like he's doing really good and has a high degree of lifestyle, people are going to notice that. And they're going to say, huh, so it is possible. How can I do that? And then it will spread. That's actually part of what I wrote in the trilogy. It starts out with a very small group of people taking action. And by the time it gets to Agora 1, 500 years in the future, there's, millions of anarchists living out across multiple galaxies. So I'm glad you brought that up, because it is just starting with yourself and trying to consciously get more freedom every day through your own actions. And people will notice.
Yeah. That ties so much together with everything we've said so far in this little bit of time, which has been only a little over a half hour. And look, we touched on so many things. I brought up Thanos and will, because what is the action depends on will. What will we do?
Yeah.
What,
you mentioned Thanos again. I'm glad you said that, because I think it was very early in me watching your Marvel Universe video series. The Thanos quote that you did, which Marvel movie was that from? I forget, where he had the will to wipe out half the population.
Yeah, that's either an Infinity War or Endgame, one of them.
Because I remember when I was watching that movie, I had the exact same analysis and thought, I'm like, oh, there we go. A psychopath trying to justify genocide, and on an extreme scale. And I think most people, when they watch that movie, they're being entertained, and it just flies right over their head.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, he might have a point. I don't know. If it's for the greater good.
Get rid of these useless eaters. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, that Thanos quote was very striking. And I remember that very distinctly from the podcast that you did about that with Francesco.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And also it was interesting because I remember around that time, I posted on Facebook something, and I mentioned it in one of those videos, how you have to give props to that character of Thanos, someone that used his will and, to go against all this, Avengers and all these, adversities and everything, and acquire these stones and all this stuff. And he had a will to do something, and he achieved it,
Right.
even though it was one of the most evil things you can do, get rid of half of existence. But yet, think of everything he went up against and the will to do it and achieve it. You got to be like, way to go, Thanos. Damn, he did. And that's the sad thing, like Passio always says, that the universe rewards unity. So he was, he had his team, they were together, the mission, focus, willpower, done. Whereas unity everybody else, anarcho-capitalist, anarcho this, anarcho that, anarcho this, freedom this, truth that, conspiracy this, 9/11 this, vaccine this, everybody's scattered to the four winds, no unity. So that's why nothing ever, no willpower. The willpower is, times a million in different directions, instead of focus on end slavery. No. So
I'm glad you said that. That's exactly what I was going to say, is that is the central core of what we all need to be striving for, and that is end slavery. That's the bottom line.
In all its guises, because people are under the mind control, thinking, well, black people are free, slavery doesn't exist anymore. That's the mind control. They got you in that little box thinking, oh, that's all that slavery means. Slavery comes in so many different shapes and sizes and flavors and colors that,
especially here in the violently controlled territory known as the USSA.
Yes.
That's huge here. Whoa, no, slavery ended back in the 1860s. I know, because I learned it in the
history class
camp for 15 years. I've got a PhD. I know that slavery ended in the 19th century.
Oh, that damn PhD. Oh, yep.
Right. Yeah.
I'm thinking Willy Wonka and that golden ticket. That's all it is. That's all that diploma is, a Willy Wonka golden ticket.
Well said. That's a great analogy. Yeah, the golden ticket PhD. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So what else is on your site? I know you mentioned that, and then I think I saw something else on here. What was it? Let me see. So Evolution Trilogy.
Right. That's my most recent work, and in my opinion, my best and most thorough work. For anyone who wants to read, who likes a long-form sci-fi novel.
Okay. This title stood out to me because we know about the dead, and I'm seeing here Adventures in Evil Zombieland. So it's like...
Right. So are you looking at my archive.org site?
No, I'm just on the website, and it says my blog. So September 26th of last year, you have the Adventures in Evil Zombieland.
Right. So actually, on my website, one of the links I have on there is to my archive.org. I basically set it up as a backup, just to preserve, at least try to preserve.
Yeah, nowadays you need backups everywhere for everything.
You never know. I've got it backed up in a few different places, and I'm doing my best. But anyway, on archive.org, I have almost everything that I've ever written on there. Most of it is fiction. There is some nonfiction that I've done on there as well. And the one that you're referring to is actually some of my earliest work that I wrote, oh man, probably 4 years ago, maybe 4, yeah, a long time ago. Anyway, so Adventures in Evil Zombieland. I called it that because people in many regards do behave like zombies. They're not paying attention. They're not consciously directing their time and attention, and they don't know the effect that their actions are having on themselves or on others. And there is a lot of evil in the world, of course, because we're living in a form of slavery. And so Adventures in Evil Zombieland kind of sounded natural for the picture that I was trying to paint. What it is just a very short, maybe 4 to 5 page, double spaced. It's a quick read and it's a first person narrative where there's one person walking around having these experiences out in quote unquote society. So it, and he's an anarchist, he's a voluntarist.
Mm-hmm.
So he uses very plain, straightforward language when he encounters just people in general, but also order followers and any extortion funded member of the government cult.
Mm-hmm.
And basically it's funny because it's such deadpan, straightforward language. So I think the first episode I wrote of that was, I actually wrote out of frustration because it was based on my own experience. It's about a guy that goes to an embassy to try and get a quote unquote work visa. And at that time, I had just attempted to do that horrible thing, and I will never ever do that again, because it's just funny how funny in a sad, ironic way, how so much time and attention is put into trying to just get permission and a piece of paper, just
Mm-hmm.
to do a simple thing like have a job and be able to support yourself. So basically it covers his interaction at the I'm trying to not use a euphemism, at the embassy, and the hijinks that ensue, where he's got to have 50 copies of this in triplicate, and he's got to pay some absurd amount of money, and he eventually gets rejected for the
All the
visa
hurdles they make
because
you jump through, yeah,
right, because
comply.
the photo he took is 1.25 inches rather than 1.5, some absurd, ridiculous thing. And it's meant to make fun of the state, basically. Long story short, that's most of my fictional narratives that I've written. I'm trying to make people help people laugh at the state, because I'm pointing out the absurdity of it.
Yeah, that's weird because in media, in like movies and TV shows, people can laugh at something that's serious, but in real life it's kind of like they don't see the connection there, but like, oh, wait a minute, what's that phrase, taking life too seriously, that's
Right.
I think that's one of the tools that they use to make things in life so serious,
Right.
that you can't just the current obfuscation they're trying to push us towards. You're gonna own nothing and be happy. So again, it's like, wait a minute,
Right.
owning that's when we shouldn't be happy. What the hell's going on here? But
right.
no, own nothing and be happy. It's like, yeah. So more mind games going on.
Right, and you're going to get poison against your will with a quote unquote vaccine in order to fly or have a job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Who owns your body? Who owns yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure nowadays who does, who has. We got to
Right.
look up. We got to go to the records and see the patents of who owns. I wouldn't doubt. Hey, with all the GMO we've been eating over the last 10, 20, 30 years, so it's like, hey, now you are what you eat. So over 50% of your body is comprised of this corporation's whatever fake food here, so we own you, you're part of us. Like, shit, that might be their mentality. They probably think this way.
I never looked at it from that angle before, but you make a valid argument there. I think that makes
sense. Psychopathy would see it that way,
from their point of view,
right? And what's one of the recent
would think.
Yes, and one of the recent interviews with Bill Gates was what, he's owning all these farms, and he wants us to stop using cows and start using, eating processed meat, made, fake meat. It's like, why would you do that? Because if we can't get our thing in there willfully for you to, kind of backdoor entrance, like, oh, everything you've been eating, it's our thing. So yeah, we own you. It's like, bastards.
You mentioned Bill Gates and the kind of the mentality of the psychopath.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, if you go into my archive, also one of my older, but one of my favorite fictional writings that I did, and quite a few. I mean, I wrote that thing almost every week for like a year and a half. There's a lot of episodes.
Mm.
It's basically, I wrote a script of what would be a one-on-one news interview, like you would see on, Meet the Press or one of those ridiculous corporate news shows. And
Mm-hmm.
I have it a one-on-one interview where it's like an arrogant, uh, grinning ear to ear schmuck host, and he's interviewing some famous psychopath, like a corporate titan or uh, a member of the government cult, a military member, a president, Bill Gates. I did an interview with Bill Gates. I did the Bush brothers.
Mm.
That was fun. I think I did the Rothschilds, or maybe the Rockefellers it was. Anyway, and that's one thing I was trying to do with writing those scripts was point out the mentality of the psychopath. And that's why it's called Interview with a Psychopath, because most of them are very well-known characters that are in the scripts that I wrote, like Bill Gates. They really are psychopaths. they, um,
Yeah. Now, this, I know I mentioned in the beginning, we touch on this, but everything we've been talking about, all these things you've written, now, why did you write these? This explains
right,
the conscious creator. So
right.
get into that. Why conscious? Because it wasn't that, oh, I'm gonna get paid and become a millionaire writing books and articles like the rest of these guys. So that's where my conscience is at. No, it's not quite that. Well, what's this conscious
Well,
creator? What's the intent? Or am I
that's
wrong?
funny,
Are you
Ivan.
trying to make
What
money?
one thing before I get into conscious creation, and thank you for that, is I just want to say that at least at this point in the year 2021, writing anarchist fiction is not a get rich quick scheme by any stretch
Mhm.
of the imagination. So
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and say that. And that's okay. I knew that going in. I'm not doing this for money.
Right.
If I were, then I'm doing it for the wrong reasons. For fake Mon I, the violence-backed Federal Reserve notes. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not doing it for that. I'm doing it to try to end slavery.
Right.
Period. Okay. So with that said, conscious creation. Ivan, I'm sure you know, we are all co-creators of our experience here in the physical realm.
Yep.
And unfortunately, most people do not know this and are not they're not conscious of how their thoughts, emotions, and actions affect their environment around them, affect themselves, affect their families, affect the society at large to a certain degree. And so what I have done, and what I think a lot of people in the quote unquote freedom community are doing, is they are consciously trying to create uh, more freedom in the world and to end slavery. But you do this with intention and with
Mm-hmm.
conscious action. So to give an example like that, what we were talking about just a minute ago with the interview with the psychopath series, I had the intention of showing just how diabolical a lot of these people are that are the quote unquote ruling class, the dark occult ruling class. That should not be, but they do exist, and unfortunately, people empower them. So being a conscious creator is basically trying to have a conscious effect on yourself and others around you, and knowing that your actions do have consequences.
Yep. that makes me think of the term, just because you can doesn't mean you should. That's where
Right.
consciousness comes in. So just
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
can just keep working a regular job and making all this money and
Right.
working on Wall Street and like, oh, look, we, real estate, foreclosures and, all this stuff is like, wait a minute.
Right.
Consciously, do you comprehend the effect you're having? Okay, you're making these little 2 3 5%
Right.
of people money here, but what about the other people? At what cost? It's like Wall Street, that movie Wall
Oh,
Street,
I
and
haven't.
Richard Gecko kind of thing. Like, oh, it's a great business model and great businessman, multi-millionaire,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
billionaire,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
are they looking at the aftermath, what the result of everything he's doing? And that's
Right.
it, that consciousness is not there.
Yeah, and that's well said, Ivan. I think that it's very easy in the current uh, immoral society that we live in. It's easy to gain material wealth by taking immoral actions.
Mm-hmm.
The system is set up that way.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's in the word. I picked this up from Diesel Automatic a few years ago. In one of his lyrics, he talked about capitalism. It's, the word capitalize, who capitalizes to take advantage of. It's like that. That's what it is. Capitalism is who gains. But again, no, everybody gains. Everybody gains. Somebody makes money and somebody gets a product. It's like, yeah, that's the nice way of looking at it. But overall, to capitalize is, capital, even the letter, capital letter is the bigger one, and then the little one. You always,
right.
more, less, higher, small. It's like it correlates. Everything's there in the words, but if you pay attention to it, but they don't.
Well, yeah, that's correspondence that you're referring to, I think.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. As above, so below.
Exactly. That's right.
Right.
You were going to say something else. Did I cut you off a little bit there?
No, you're fine. A million thoughts are going through my mind of tangents.
That's how this works. Exactly. That's how this works. So dish some of those thoughts. Which one's at the top of your list there?
Well, I wanted to ask you if you had any more questions about my work in particular, that just from browsing what you had seen.
No, those were the ones that stood out to me. Like I said, yeah, I wanted to make sure we touch on conscious creation and then your series. And then that one, Zombieland, is what stood out to me because like the movie Zombieland, but evil zombie. It's like me just going out into the world. I can see that it is Zombieland. It's almost like Neo in the Matrix. Once you can read the codes, decode stuff, you see it. And it's me stepping out into the world and seeing people with the face mask on. Everywhere I go, the face mask. It's like Zombieland. It's like
they don't even think about putting a mask on anymore.
Yeah, it's automatic.
It's like breathing or tying their shoes or something. It's just, I gotta put my mask on to do anything outside. It's horrible. And I'm really I'm kind of, I don't want to say afraid, but there's going to be I think, in my opinion, a lot of negative health consequences in the long term for people who continue to do that on a regular basis.
Look, we just tied it back around. Conscious creation. Think of the consciousness. When all this started, everybody, the face mask, we need to produce face masks and protective gear and all this. And I remember seeing some kind of little newscast showing how in China, third world country or somewhere where they manufacture all these masks, sanitary masks for health, but yet they're cranking them out on these machines, and they're stacked up on the floor, and guys just putting them together and counting 10 to put in a pack and everything. But this is supposed to be sanitary and safe to prevent you, but yet they're being all mass produced. And so it's, again, there's that lack of conscious creation. It's like, we're creating all this stuff for the health of people, but consciously is like, no, you're not. It's just, to get rich quick scheme. Got the face shields, the masks, the sanitizers, and everything's like, ooh, money is profit now,
And, I hate to say it, but with what's happened in the past year with the lockdowns and the severe further restrictions on freedom, I'm very disappointed in humanity and how they're acting. Just really offering almost no resistance and going along with everything that they hear from the dark occult television channels,
Yep.
lie vision
Yeah.
channels. Uh,
Yep.
um, Actually, Ivan, I have a huge tangent that I want to jump off into, if you don't mind, and it's way off the subject of COVID and the lockdowns.
No,
But
go ahead. Go ahead.
I, I haven't talked about this with anyone in any podcast, or I don't think with anyone before. I want to ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you know about artificial intelligence. I call them artificial intellect.
Correct.
The machine, I call them, because they can't have true intelligence without having emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I call it artificial intellect. So if you were to take, just to paint a picture, a humanoid form, that is almost indistinguishable from a human, like in the movie Blade Runner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you take an AI like that and you teach them about natural law, you teach them the objective difference between right and wrong and why it's important in the essence of creation itself, then what would that AI do? What would it look like? What actions would it take? If it is into its original programming, and I'm going somewhere with this, not just on a philosophical level, but also this is something that is in my trilogy.
Mm.
What do you think would happen
Well, I haven't
if
read
an
your
AI were
trilogy
taught natural
yet.
law?
I haven't
No,
read your
I understand.
trilogy,
I
so
understand.
but I have an idea, and I have two different things bouncing around in my head, both
Okay, great.
movie kind of wise.
Sure.
For some reason, you mentioned Blade Runner, the replicants, but I'm thinking of Bishop in Aliens, the android Bishop by he
Oh
was
man,
played by
I'm having
Lance
to go way
Henriksen.
back in my memory banks, man. But yeah,
He's
I
the
hear
one
you.
that did the knife thing with his hands, and then
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
bleeding a little
Yeah, I got
bit and
you.
Ripley freaked out. But he
Yeah.
says by his programming, he cannot allow a human to be harmed either, by his actions or by any other action. I'm like, so that's one thing, the programming there. But
Okay.
yet I know in a holistic approach, you would think, but like, wait a minute, I can't let humanity be harmed. However, within humanity, there is a subsect that's harming humanity. That part of humanity needs to go or be addressed. So it's kind of that's what I'm kind of seeing there, that even though
Right.
it's supposed to protect humanity, it knows that within humanity, it has its own detriment, and that like a cancer, it
Right.
needs to be cut out. That's what I would kind of say.
Right. I hear you. I see where you're going with that. That's an interesting point. Basically, I'll just give a little spoiler for something that's in my trilogy.
Okay.
So at the point that it reaches in Siagora, basically the people living on the ocean have a very high degree of freedom. They're not paying taxes. They're not under duress. Basically, they have a very high degree of freedom, but they have a lot of AI, humanoid AI, that are helping them. They're helping evade the state with the help of AI. One of the reasons is one of the AI that's in Siagora was built by one of the main characters in the previous part of the trilogy. This AI built more AI, quote unquote, had children. It made made more AI. Okay. And the original programming for that one of the main characters, which is an AI, was the objective difference between right and wrong, right action, and why it's important, and why it's built into the fabric of creation itself. So based on that, the AI and all of the AI that come after it within the Siagora take right action. To contrast that, all of the people living on land in the Siagora storyline, they're living in a high degree of slavery. They're still living under tyrannical governments. And they also have a lot of AI in their government control structures. The difference is the AI working for the death cults known as militaries and the governments in general, they do not know natural law. They do not know the objective difference between right and wrong, because obviously government state actors are not going to put that knowledge in the AI's program.
There's the word
When they're
programming.
working for the government.
The difference is the
It's the difference.
programming.
Exactly. Right. So there's a lot of contrast there where there's one group of AI taking right action. There's one group of AI that are doing extremely immoral things and creating a lot of harm and suffering in the world.
Mm-hmm. And you know, with
So,
the alien thing, that's also correct, because Bishop was in the second one, but in the first Alien movie, you had the other android that was just programmed to go off what the corporation wanted, you know, bring a sample of that alien, and you know, the crew is expendable, so different programming. So yeah, same
and see, now I need to rewatch Alien, because I haven't seen Alien, I think, since I was, I don't know, a teenager maybe.
Yeah.
So now you're piquing my interest. I need to go back and look at it with a fresh set of eyes.
The first two, and then recently Ridley Scott went back to try and do some prequels, Alien, Prometheus, and then Alien Covenant. And those two films also had that same premise with androids, the programming, right and wrong, and the consequences. And I'm beginning to love that word, con, together, and sequences. Sequence of events.
Right.
So together, whatever you do has a sequence. It's in the word again, consequences. People just throw out, consequences. You know, the consequence. No. It's a sequence of events. You do this one thing, and it's going to go this direction. You change that one thing, another sequence of events. So it's so important. And again, conscience creating is just like that. Whatever you do consciously, it has its consequences.
Yeah, etymology is so important.
Yes.
And I've done a good bit of, you know, trying to dig into etymology and understand the true root original meanings of words. And but I never thought of consequence like that before. And so there's always more that I can learn that I need to take time and attention and dig into.
Yeah, your two biggest currencies, time and attention. There are times I hate time. I get angry with time because, like right now, we are recording this, and it's morning time, and I'm supposed to go to work. You know, I need to be at work at a certain time. So look at this creative thing right here of you know, knowledge. We could probably go on for hours and delve deep into different things, but because time is, you know, constrained and got to do this. See, oh my goodness. And it's just so weird because being at work, time drags. It takes forever. But yet that same amount of time when I'm not at work, flies by, and it's like it's the same time. What the freaking hell? It's the programming. It's some spell of being at a certain place that casts a certain spell, and things slow down and are in slow motion and things. So, you know, sorry, I just went off on a different tangent there, but still, that's all connected because
it affects your perception. Yeah, absolutely. If you're sitting somewhere and not enjoying yourself, and you don't have if you're kind of bored, or if you're in a mundane task or something
repetitive, the same thing over and over again,
then it's very easy for time to go super slow. And when, you know, we all went to the extortion funded indoctrination centers, or as another term that I like to use is the imagination destruction centers. I'm referring to public schools that we all endured, or most of us endured, for so long.
The cookie cutters. I had a higher class than public school. I went to private Catholic school, so I had a special golden one. Okay. I had that special seal, you know. So it wasn't just a regular public. I had the, you know, sit, kneel, bow, and you know, the blessing. Yeah, I had extra stuff. So so I had a few more to get rid of.
I was raised Catholic also, so I can relate.
There we go.
Yeah.
but the average argument is, yeah, public schooling. But yeah, it's
Right.
all the same. It's all the same. They all have the little flavors. But yep.
Well, you were talking about time and how we perceive it.
Yeah.
And I was thinking back to when we were in school,
Yep.
how slow time would go because you're so bored. There's
Mm-hmm.
no stimulation of the
Yep.
imagination at all. You're
That's right.
literally just sitting there doing repetitive tasks and
Yep.
waiting for a bell to ring.
Yeah.
And you
Little.
do this for years. How sad is that?
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
seriously, I'm laughing because it's so absurd that people think this is normal, but it's really sad.
Pavlov's dog thing, the bell. Even now at work, we have a schedule. Break time. You work such amount of time, and you're looking
Oh my
to
God.
break time. When's break time? Break
Yeah, I
time.
can't
Ding, ding,
stand that.
ding, ding.
Right.
Start barking. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, what the
Right.
freaking hell?
Behave right. You're basically being trained to behave like a machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very inhuman. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Yep.
Um,
All right. Do you have anything else? Because I think we can go ahead and start wrapping it up there. I mentioned your website, but go ahead and give it again, and any other links and places where people can find your information or any parting words. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You got the floor.
So if people go to toddborho.com, that's TODDBORHO.com. That's a central location where I have links to all of my free digital content, writing, animations, a little bit of music. And also, if they'd like to purchase a paperback of the Evolution Trilogy, I have a link to, I'm working with Liberty Under Attack Publications. Ivan, I'm sure you're familiar with them.
I've heard that name,
and
yeah.
they can order a paperback from Liberty Under Attack. Yeah, and I mean, basically, the work on my site is all geared towards gaining freedom and ending slavery. So I hope people will take some time and attention, and just go take a look. A lot of it is satirical and darkly comedic, and it makes fun of the state. So I think people will enjoy it, and there's a lot of quick, easy reads there, because I know people are have time constraints. There's that word time again, the concept of time. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there, and people can take a look and hopefully pass it along and help taking right action and doing the great work themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Again, even in this at the end right here, brought up a few things. Comedy, making them laugh. Bill Hicks, George Carlin, so much truth. Comedy is brilliant, because if you're just straight serious, that's a trigger for people. And time, some more of the programming, immediate gratification. If you don't have them hooked in 10 seconds, 15 seconds, in and out, it's like, my goodness, man. So yeah, so many different tools that are against us, and then we got to turn around and use it, back against the system. So
right, yeah, we have to use the same tool, take the same opportunity, but use it to promote freedom.
Yep. All right, Todd. Thanks a lot for joining me, and we'll keep in touch.
Much. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so that wraps up Guy Next Door Speaks Videocast, episode number 8. I've been your host, Ivan from Phoenix. And as always, depending what time of day you're watching this, good morning, good afternoon, or good night, and be well.